Hello everyone! We are so close to experiencing the next big Bethesda universe. I have been looking back on the reveals, dev chats, and much more to refresh my excitement, and hope you are as ready as I am to jump into this new world. This video is a compilation of the Into the Starfield videos released by BGS. I hope they make you feel the wonder and excitement they do for me. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to the channel for more Starfield videos, updates, and experiences in the future.
At Bethesda Game Studios, we love to create experiences that, through art and technology, transport you. We've brought that to many worlds, but never to what's above us. When we look to the sky, we wonder if we're alone. What's out there? What our future holds? In some ways, since every element in each of us is from the stars, we want to return. Starfield is our first new universe in over 25 years. It's a game we've dreamt of playing. And it's only now that we have the hardware, the technology, and the experience to push our creative boundaries even further. In it, we invite you to join Constellation, the last group of space explorers. It's a next-generation role-playing game where you'll be who you want, go where you want, experience our stories, and forge your own. More than that, Starfield's about hope, our shared humanity, and searching for the answers to life's greatest mystery. We have a lot to share. For the first time, we'll provide an inside look at the inspiration and process behind Starfield. We hope you'll join Constellation and go with us on the journey as we craft our next epic.
I think the one thing people underestimate about video games is that people think it's just playtime. But I always say that the one thing video games can give you that nothing else in entertainment can is that feeling of pride, right? Look what I did. And even though we want to make a game that is very big and is very long, you can play for all of those years. It's all the paths you didn't take that make it special to you, that you feel like when you finish that quest, that you feel that you accomplished something that week. The people who love video games can always say, like, what'd you do today? I saved the world.
We've been incredibly lucky to work with such a tight group of people for so long. Like, we're all friends. It's like a second family in a way. We all sort of know or get what a Bethesda game is.
There's definitely this core group who's been working together for decades and knows how to make a BGS game. And then there's this, new generation of game developers who are coming in and working at BGS who grew up on those games those people made. For some people, those are the games that got them to go into the industry in the first place. And what I love about that is those people come in and they love the worlds too, and they want to stay true to those worlds that they grew up on. And so we're still able to maintain what a BGS game is, but continue to evolve.
I think we underestimate how long people are going to play it. You look at Skyrim, we're sitting here 10 years later, and it keeps having this life, and it changes how you want to create something.
Yeah, I feel like our games sort of have two lives, right? Like, we create this game and we put everything we can possibly put into it and tell the stories we want to tell and build this world that's sort of a setup that when we hand it off to the players, they play it, but then they take it and make it their own. They tell their own stories and then they make their own stories with our tools.
I think it's the hallmark of our games that, you play it and my experience is going to be different than yours. I'm going to come in and tell you a funny story about something that happened to me. You may never have seen that because just a confluence of events. And I think that helps with the longevity and it helps with that feeling of community in a lot of ways.
It is a world that you get transported to that you can really make your own. And that's where, for me, the magic is, to do it for 2 decades and close to that for so much of our group, there's a big trust there that we know how we solve certain things together. We were doing Morrowind and looking at what we might do after that and beyond that. And we had a list of what are the other types of worlds we want to go to. And obviously Fallout was at the top of the list, if we could do that, and that, magically, luckily came true for us. And right behind that was, science fiction. Going to space, I think there's a magic in just defying gravity and taking off from a planet. Like it's extremely difficult human endeavor.
Yeah, a lot of our games are about exploration, and that's sort of like, that's the ultimate exploration, is what's out there, what's past Earth, right? So it's incredibly exciting for us to work on something like that. I feel like every time we come to a game, we're starting fresh. We're saying, okay, we just did that one, that's over. How do we make it better in every way? It's got a more realistic, science-based backing to it, whereas Skyrim is sort of an epic fantasy. This is a more grounded game and a grounded setting about exploration. So I think that gives us a different take on how we make everything. So that's sort of the thing you latch onto when we're making new areas, making environments, making characters.
The mechanics of the world are entirely different, but there are similarities. And I think those are things we like. Like, we like playing first person. We like having all the coffee cups. We like being able to touch everything. Those moments make the whole thing believable. Being able to watch the sunset and nighttime come and just sit there and watch the world go by seems like it's not gameplay, but it is vital to how you feel through the rest of it.
I also think that because it's based in a more realistic atmosphere, is like, you have a lot of people on our team who are super into certain things like robotics or engineering, and they can use this lifetime of knowledge they have gathered and then use it in their work.
Everyone comes from these different areas and brings stuff to the game that can make it in, and it all matters. From the rocks to the clutter to what the spacesuits look like. It's based on people's experience and sort of learning about how things work in the world and trying to apply it in a way that's believable for this universe.
Yeah, it starts feeling so real to us. Like, all you're saying, we do all that stuff, but then concepting like everything they eat, or the toys the children play with, or what are their bedtime stories? What is their art? What is their history? What is their entertainment? It is a universe, not just a game.
There has to be an emotional trigger that occurs. And I think as time has gone on, we're able to paint an even better picture that triggers that emotional thing.
You always have that step out moment into the world, so to say. Technology's changed, we've all changed. So our expectations when loading up a game, like, okay, I'm gonna step out and there's gonna be this moment. Us being able to do that and have it feel new every generation, every game, is something that is really special about what we do. I like to say that Starfield has 2 step-out moments. It's cryptic. Our process of making it is a journey for us that is very, very rewarding. And coming to Starfield, everybody's starting over and saying, what would you want to do? What does going to space mean to you? And everybody comes back to the same one. I want to see what's out there.
It's a level of immersion that we really focus on. You're not just playing a game, but you're living in this world, in this universe.
It's a giant open world for the player to do what they want. You feel like you've had an impact in the world. You really feel like you're there.
There's certain, types of entertainment where you're just experiencing it. You're taking in what the creator wants you to see, and they draw that dotted line between this happens, go here, do this. The more that we can put you in the situation where you're going to decide. That's what makes video games the best form of entertainment that they are.
We don't just make RPGs, like we make simulations, and that leads to a lot of just crazy stuff that can happen and things you don't expect.
Yeah, we always have those big fights, like, what if combat breaks out right now, right? You have to handle that, right? Because it could. You can't control it. The only thing you control is that the game has to account for it somehow.
We embrace the chaos, let it play out, and usually it's pretty fun.
A lot of us have been doing this for a long time together. And it's nice with Starfield to go back to some things we didn't do, the backgrounds, the traits, the defining your character, all of those stats. And I think there's so many games now that do those things that people are ready for something that does a lot of the things that, you know, older hardcore RPGs, some that we used to do, doing those again in a new way.
We've always allowed the player to, you know, to create really interesting, unique characters. This game, we've definitely severely leveled up. The tech is based on scanning of real-world models, similar to the photogrammetry we do in our landscapes. We're kind of applying the same thing to our people as well, because it's not just the appearance of your player and all that, but you know, we want all the personal interactions of NPCs, other characters in the game to be as impactful as possible. And for that, you have to believe these are real people. You're a real person interacting with real people.
One of the big choices is which part of the game world am I going to engage in? We always make a bunch of different groups that represent some of the major factions in every game. And in this one, we've got the United Colonies that represents the future Space Republic, idealized. You also have the Freestar Collective, which is the space Western fantasy, people that are out there on the frontier. We've got Ryujin Industries, which represents corporate life. I think it has one of the best starts of any of the factions we've done.
It's a megacorp, and you get hired, right? Like that you would do, right?
We'll play for our job. We'll see if you cut the mustard.
Right.
Yeah, I love approaching it that way, where, okay, what makes the world feel whole? What are the groups that would make it feel whole and believable? And then how does the player interact with them? You know, what we're doing with the pirates, the Crimson Fleet as well. They're not just this foe. Let the player join them. What does that mean?
The cool thing about Crimson Fleet, you know, what if you're a good person and you want to be a good player and you don't want to play as a bad guy? You can side with the pirates, or you can report back your superiors and be like basically space cop type of thing. So let you be a good person and still play with the bad guys. I think that's really cool too.
It seems like no matter what story we write, the one the players tell themselves is the one that they think about and love the most, and the companions.
Hello, Captain. How may I be of assistance?
So something we really, you know, leaned into on this game, how those other characters felt about you.
That's probably my favorite part. Like when you're exploring and then your companion makes some comment off the cuff about something that you're checking out or something that just happened, it just feels so perfect for immersion. It's so believable. You think it's a real person.
So, you know, we knew we wanted to do some kind of persuasion minigame thing.
Yeah, we sat down and it was funny. We didn't start with, let's do an evolution of, let's look back at the old Oblivion system, but there are a couple of beats there. You have to think about, what's my risk here, right? Which one do I want to choose? We didn't want it to be a system where there was definitely the right thing to say.
It feels like you're having a conversation where you're actually trying to persuade somebody of something. So it's actually, I think it's, as far as new systems in dialogue, I think it's definitely one of the most successful ones that we've had.
Yeah. I think when we knew we were making a game about space, you ask yourself certain questions, and that question is, what is out there? And so, as a game, we have romance, adventure, mystery, but I think with Starfield, there's this other layer of, you know, the cosmos and the universe and what is out there.
At the end of it, we want the players to have told their own journey, but then look back at it and we're asking the big questions. Why are we all here? Where is it leading? And what's next for humanity?
I always say that music is the fourth dimension. It is the emotional dimension. And so in order to create this, you have to ask these questions. Where are you going? You know, what's your motivation? What is your story? What is really pushing us? This is what really drove me more than anything else. These huge questions, they're as big as space.
Everything I've worked on at this studio, the music started very early on, as early as the concept art for the game from when I began here in 2005. At that time, Oblivion was already well underway, but as we went on to Fallout 3 after that, that was one of the first things I worked on music-wise was the main theme, and that's always been the case, where the main theme sets the tone for everything else we do in the game. And there's time throughout the entire project for that to evolve.
That's true, and I remember like during the Fallout 4 visit, which was actually in 2012, I was wandering through the corridors and I basically stumbled into the artist's room. And it was the first time I actually saw them do what they're doing. I was captivated. I was like, wow, I mean, this is really what it is all about. And I felt so inspired and motivated basically to go back and, you know, to do the same thing with the palette of music. The biggest challenge is actually creating the signature.
I relax a lot once we feel good about the main theme, because the rest is going to, it'll be work and iteration, but it's going to write itself.
The way I looked at Starfield always is what I called the sanctified triplet, which is everything is streaming, right? Everything is changing and everything is returning back. Ta-da, ta-da, here's your development, and then ta-da, and back. So basically it presents itself, it develops, it goes back.
The circular.
Is exactly, some sort of like a circular journey.
You go out, you adventure, discover, return.
Yes, there's always the strive to go back home. And that's, I mean, I guess that's what feels so complete for us, right? We want to complete the mission. We want to complete our journey. We will find something, we will discover something, we'll take it with us, and we will go back home with it. When we built the traditional orchestral sound palette, we actually really divided the orchestral group. For example, took the woodwinds, okay? And we created like a whole woodwind layer that almost represents particle in space, because they don't play melodies at all. They play sort of like a high frequency sequence, you know, like together. So they almost don't sound like woodwind. They sound something between organic to synthetic. Then the strings, they will play this long chords or long melodies and long crescendos and diminuendos. And these kind of things along the line with the fast-moving woodwinds will create a nice blanket around these waves, okay? And then comes the brass. And the brass, especially the French horns, playing sort of like the beacon, you know, the call of the brass.
Those instrument groups as well. A lot of times when you are looking at that whole main theme, I'm kind of salivating, thinking about what can I do with that on the sound design side, you know, not just to weave the main theme into different key points in the game, leveling up, discovering new places. Could we use that as straight up sound design to take those woodwind tremolos and just, let's slow them way down, let's reverse them. I'll take any of that music and turn it into ambience somewhere. The music is like the companion. It's the companion to the player in the single-player game. We don't have control over how the player chooses to experience the game. Our sense of scale had to be totally readjusted in making a game on a planetary surface as we've always done before, and now where you have these very vast distances against this black, starry background. It is a blank canvas and a massive playground, and all the pieces are there for you to write your own story. Whether you jump right in and you wish to follow the main quest, the main story, and go to the obvious one point leads to another, leads to another. The music has a funny way of playing the right chord change at the right time, and a lot of that just happens at random. You look over the valley at just the right moment, and that just happens to be when this one chord change happens, and there are times like that that feel scripted, and they're not. And I like that each player has that experience for themselves personally.
I believe that the game is a whole experience, and music is part of the whole experience. I believe that the best music in a game is a music that you don't hear, music that you feel. This is something that is bigger than us. I mean, so many people worked on this game. And so my wish is that specifically the music will be present in a way that is going to magnify the entire experience.